Yeah, Ben and Lourdes, a somber stream of people have been coming to honor Marlen and show support for her family.
How well can we really know someone who offers help? At what point does generosity become something far more complicated? We live in a world where acts of kindness connect communities every day. But sometimes, beneath the surface of good intentions lies a story that challenges everything we assume about human nature. To understand how such profound trust could be broken, we first need to meet the bright young woman at the heart of this story, someone whose warmth and optimism touched everyone she knew. Marlen Ochoa-Lopez entered the world on November 16, 1999 in Mexico. Her parents, Arnulfo Ochoa and Raquel Urrugi, decided when she was just 2 years old to move north to the United States, hoping the land of opportunity would also be the land of stability. She spent most of her childhood in Des Moines, Iowa, where family life was warm, if sometimes complicated. By her late teens, her parents had gone their separate ways, each starting new relationships. It was one of those situations where everyone said they wanted the best for each other, though not necessarily in the same living room. Those close to Marlen often spoke of her gentle nature and the way her smile seemed to light up a room. She was small in stature, about 5'3" and weighing around 125 pounds, with deep brown eyes and long, flowing brown hair. Her presence was calm and inviting, the kind that made people feel at ease. She had a gift for spotting humor in the ordinary, sometimes even in the mildly inconvenient, as if life's small mishaps were just punchlines waiting to happen. But before we begin, I just want to say thank you to my amazing viewers and subscribers. Your support through likes, shares, and comments means the world to me. Your engagement helps make these stories even more meaningful. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts. Her mother would affectionately call her an angel, while her father cherished the playful moments they shared. He recalled that she seemed to greet the world with a smile, no matter the day or season. Even as a child, there was a quiet certainty in the way she carried herself, as though the future held nothing but good things. An optimism that, in hindsight, feels almost unfair. From a young age, Marlen showed a fascination with beauty and style. By the time she was 8, she was quietly experimenting with her mother's makeup, eyeliner being her personal favorite, long before she was technically allowed to wear it. As she got older, free time often meant watching online tutorials, trying out new looks on friends, and capturing her creations in carefully posed selfies. Her father remembered that her creativity extended beyond makeup. She also enjoyed sketching and coming up with clothing designs. In her heart, Marlen carried big dreams. She imagined herself one day modeling and perhaps stepping onto a stage as a singer. Her faith was also a steady part of her life, and she stayed active in her church community. Arnulfo, her father, often reflected that his move to the United States had been for the very purpose of giving her possibilities she might not have had otherwise. And Marlen, with her determined spirit, seemed ready to collect every single one, preferably while looking camera-ready. Marlen managed the demands of both school and home life with determination. She was enrolled at Roosevelt High School in Des Moines, while also participating in an alternative program at 𝐂𝐲𝐵O High School. In her late teens, she married Giovanni Lopez with Pastor Carlos Tamayo, long familiar with her family, leading the ceremony. Not long after, she became a mother to a baby boy, stepping into parenthood with care and affection. Giovanni would later describe her as intelligent and ambitious, someone eager to accomplish meaningful goals. Balancing her studies with the needs of a toddler was no small task, yet she kept up with both. Her husband, gentle in nature and steady in work, valued the life they were building together. In their own quiet way, they seemed to be proving that young love, hard work, and good intentions could keep everything afloat, at least until life decided to test that theory. Giovanni planned to move to Chicago to work in his family's business, and by 2019, the couple was living there. Marlen transferred to Latino Youth High School in Pilsen to keep pursuing her education. That spring, she was expecting their second child, due May 5th. Arnulfo last saw her at Christmas, but they stayed in touch almost daily through calls and video chats. She often sent photos and clips of her growing belly, little updates that made the distance feel smaller, at least when the connection didn't freeze mid-smile.
Marlen became part of a Facebook community called Help a Mother Out, where local moms shared advice and occasionally passed along gently used baby supplies. As her due date drew closer, she was thankful when a member offered her free newborn clothes and a stroller. The offer came from 46-year-old Clarissa Figueroa, who explained that she had extra baby items to give away. She invited Marlen to stop by her home to collect them. For a 19-year-old preparing for a new baby on a tight budget, it felt like an unexpected stroke of good fortune. Clarissa had faced her own heartbreak. In 2018, her adult son, Xander, passed away from natural causes at the age of 20. The loss weighed heavily on her, and by October that year, she began telling people she was expecting another child. In truth, having more children was not possible for her. She had undergone a procedure years earlier to prevent future pregnancies. Her announcement puzzled family members, especially her 24-year-old daughter, Desiree. Still, Clarissa posted what she claimed was an ultrasound image online and set up a nursery complete with decorations, as though determination alone could make her story true. On April 1st, 2019, just weeks before Marlen's due date, Clarissa told her daughter Desiree that she needed her assistance. She revealed a disturbing plan. She wanted to take the life of a pregnant woman and claim her baby as her own. Sadly, Marlen was the person she had in mind. That same day, Clarissa invited Marlen to her home, saying she had baby items to give away. Trusting the offer and eager to prepare for her child, Marlen went to the house in Chicago's Scottsdale neighborhood. Clarissa planned to carry out her idea that same day, but Desiree hesitated and refused to be involved at the last moment. Clarissa's boyfriend, 40-year-old Piotr Bobak, overheard what was being discussed and was unsettled by the conversation. He even warned that he would call the police if anything happened to Marlen. For that reason, the meeting ended without harm. Now, most people wouldn't feel entirely comfortable living with someone openly talking about such a plan. What Piotr thought beyond that is anyone's guess, but apparently the fact nothing happened that day was enough for him to set the matter aside. Clarissa did not abandon the idea she had shared earlier. In the weeks that followed, she stayed in contact with Marlen through friendly Facebook messages, gradually building more trust. For Marlen, 9 months pregnant and appreciative of any kindness, there seemed no cause for doubt. Clarissa's home looked the part too, with a nursery already prepared, shelves filled with baby supplies, and talk of her own upcoming due date woven seamlessly into their conversations. On April 23, 2019, Marlen began her day as usual, attending classes. At about 10:40 a.m., she sent Ivani a message saying she might be going into labor. He offered to pick her up right away, but she told him to wait. Later that afternoon, surveillance footage showed her leaving school alone around 3 p.m. She was dressed in a gray sweater, a maroon shirt bearing her school's logo, and sweatpants. Instead of heading straight to collect her son from daycare, she got into her black Honda Civic and drove toward Clarissa's house for more baby supplies.
When she arrived, the family welcomed her warmly, showing her a photo album of Clarissa's late son, Xander. While her attention was on the pictures, Clarissa quietly stepped behind the couch. In an instant, the atmosphere in the room changed. Clarissa's friendly demeanor quickly shifted into something far more menacing, and Marlen sensed she was in real danger. She reacted instantly, refusing to give in, and fought with everything she had, driven by her determination to protect herself and her unborn child. When Clarissa struggled to overpower her, Desiree stepped in at her mother's urging. Together, they restrained Marlen until her movements gradually ceased. With Marlen no longer responding, Clarissa turned her attention to the baby. In the tense and untrained attempt that followed, a baby boy was delivered alive, but in fragile condition, already struggling to breathe. The chaotic situation meant he did not receive proper care in those critical first moments. Afterward, Marlen was discreetly moved from the scene, and Clarissa and Desiree took steps to conceal what had happened, even attempting to erase any visible signs of the incident, of what had occurred, by cleaning the floors and walls. In the minutes that followed, Clarissa dialed 911, claiming she had just given birth at home and that her newborn was in distress. It was a performance she likely hoped would erase every trace of the truth, but some stories are too big for even the best act to hide. When Clarissa called 911, her voice was urgent, begging for immediate assistance with her newborn. Moments later, first responders arrived, and Clarissa opened the door holding an infant who appeared blue and struggling to breathe. Paramedics quickly began life-saving measures. Normally, a woman who has just given birth would show signs of postpartum recovery, but Clarissa displayed none. The baby and Clarissa were rushed to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn. It's unclear what role Piotr played during these events, or if he was even present. Reports vary, but some suggest that Desiree and Piotr stayed behind to clean the house and decide how to handle Marlene's remains. That evening, around 6 p.m., Marlene's mother, Raquel, received a call from Ivani. Concerned that Marlene hadn't arrived to pick up their son, he shared his worries. Raquel remembered how difficult the pregnancy had been, especially the early months marked by constant nausea. She thought Marlen might have gone to the hospital. Growing uneasy, Raquel and Marlen's stepfather contacted local hospitals but found no sign of her. With mounting concern, they went to the 8th District Chicago Lawn Police Station to report her missing, only to be told they needed to wait 24 hours before a report could be filed, an all-too common obstacle in urgent situations. Raquel spent hours leaving message after message, her voice filled with worry as she pleaded for Marlen to answer and let her know she was safe. Meanwhile, Arnulfo was in Iowa when he received the unsettling call from his ex-wife. Known for his quiet faith, he ensured their son was cared for within their church community before making the trip to Chicago himself. Determined to find Marlen, Raquel and her friend Maria Castro visited hospitals repeatedly, searching for any sign of her. Around midday, they attempted again to file a missing persons report at the 10th District Ogden Police Station, only to be told that Marlen's husband was the only one authorized to file it. Later, Ivani went to the 11th District West Side Police Station to officially report her missing. Still, public appeals from the police wouldn't come until 2 days later. Though Marlen was nearly full term with a high-risk pregnancy, on the third day of searching, Raquel received what she thought was promising news. A staff member at Mercy Hospital mentioned a woman in the emergency room under Marlen's name who was reportedly having a C-section. Raquel hurried to the hospital's South Side location, only to learn no such patient was admitted. The experience was deeply painful, leaving her to wonder if someone was cruelly playing a trick on her grieving family. Despite the disappointment, the family held on to hope that Marlen had been admitted somewhere but couldn't make contact. Raquel began to fear a darker possibility, that her daughter had been taken against her will. The thought of Marlen running away seemed impossible, especially since they had already agreed she would live with her mother after the birth.
On the morning of April 26th, Raquel received a disturbing phone call from someone claiming to have information about Marlen's whereabouts. The caller insisted she had crossed the border and was being held in Tijuana, demanding $1,000 for her release. Police were informed, but considered the call likely to be a scam. That same afternoon, just after 2 p.m., authorities issued a high-risk missing person alert. They described Marlen as heavily pregnant and last seen near 2001 South California Avenue in Little Village. By then, nearly 3 full days had passed without any official notice. When questioned about the delay, police offered no clear explanation, only stating that timing can vary depending on the case. As days went by with no new information and Marlen's due date arrived, the family's worry turned to anguish. Raquel's fear grew that whoever had taken her daughter was waiting for the baby's arrival. On May 2nd, the family held a tearful press conference, appealing to the public for any information. Marlen's disappearance stretched into 2 weeks, leaving her loved ones in deep distress. Meanwhile, at Advocate Christ Medical Center, the infant known as baby boy Figueroa, named after Clarissa, was kept on life support. He was in critical condition with significant brain damage caused by oxygen deprivation at birth. Hospital staff became concerned when Clarissa arrived, showing unusual signs and no typical postpartum symptoms, which led them to notify authorities. However, it took 2 weeks before they did so, a delay that Marlen's family later strongly criticized. At first, there was no solid evidence pointing to a crime. Clarissa stuck to her story that she had delivered the baby herself. It wasn't until May 7, 2019, that investigators finally linked the missing mother to the newborn at the hospital. Around that same time, a baby was discovered in an alley on Chicago's northwest side. Raquel and her family hurried to Lurie Children's Hospital, hoping the child was Marlen's. A detective later called to inform them the infant found was not connected to Marlen. Friends of Marlen told police about her Facebook activity, including plans to pick up baby supplies from a woman. Authorities reviewed messages between Marlen and Clarissa and realized the address where Marlen had gone, on April 23rd, matched the location linked to the 911 call about the newborn. Police quickly focused on Clarissa's neighborhood, canvassing the area. On May 7th, they located Marlen's black Honda Civic parked a few blocks away. By then, the car had accumulated 3 parking tickets. Marlen's family later questioned why this had not raised earlier suspicion, noting that the tickets should have alerted officials to the missing vehicle. With growing concerns, detectives visited Clarissa's home to ask questions. When they knocked, Desiree answered and attempted to divert them. She claimed her mother was unavailable, recovering in the hospital from leg pain, but she soon added somewhat inadvertently that her mother had recently given birth. Detectives found Desiree's story so unusual that it only deepened their suspicions about the family's involvement in Marlen's disappearance. Police secured the scene and quickly obtained a search warrant for the property. On May 14, 2019, armed with a warrant, Chicago officers carefully searched Clarissa's home and yard. In the backyard, Piotr was found trying to wash a rug using bleach and water. Inside the house, investigators noticed obvious signs of a troubling incident. Stains were visible in the hallway and bathroom, along with clear evidence that someone had tried to clean the area. Various cleaning supplies and freshly washed towels were also discovered. In the garage and yard area, Marlen's remains were discovered in a trash bin behind the house. After 3 weeks, the remains were badly but still identifiable. After weeks of uncertainty, Marlen's family was confronted with the devastating reality that she was no longer alive.
At the same time, the baby's identity was confirmed through DNA testing. On May 14th, officials collected a DNA sample from the infant at the hospital. The results showed the child was Marlen's son, with no biological connection to Clarissa. Adding to the family's sorrow, Clarissa and her relatives set up a GoFundMe campaign, explaining that their baby was very unwell and they needed help with funeral expenses. They referred to the infant as Baby Xander. Piotr shared updates on his Facebook page, expressing his hope and concern. "My son has been fighting bravely, but the doctors say his condition is very serious. He's receiving all the care he needs." On May 16, 2019, Chicago officials officially charged 46-year-old Clarissa, her daughter Desiree, and her partner Piotr in connection with Marlen's passing. Prosecutor James Murphy explained that Clarissa, with Desiree's involvement, was responsible for causing harm to Marlen, followed by actions involving the infant. The judge called the case deeply troubling and denied bond for all 3. Clarissa and Desiree faced first-degree charges related to loss of life, along with aggravated battery and additional counts connected to the infant. Piotr, who was not directly involved but assisted in concealing the situation, was charged with hiding the incident and later faced obstruction charges. Piotr's defense argued he was misled into believing Ivani was his child. Prosecutors, however, maintained that Piotr was aware of the situation and helped clean the scene, even trying to collect funds through a GoFundMe campaign for a baby he knew was not his. Over the following months, further charges were added. After baby Ivani's passing in June, Clarissa and Desiree were also charged with the infant's passing. A grand jury indicted all three on numerous counts. The legal process progressed slowly, with all three pleading not guilty in June 2019. During a September hearing, a judge denied a defense request for a gag order, allowing case details to remain accessible to the public. As the investigation unfolded, it came to light that Desiree was about 4 months pregnant when the incident occurred. She later gave birth while in custody. Approaching trial, mounting evidence led the defendants to rethink their positions. In January 2023, Piotr agreed to a plea on a lesser charge related to obstruction of justice. He received a relatively brief sentence, reportedly around 4 years with credit for time served, and was released on parole that same year. On January 8, 2024, Desiree entered a guilty plea for her involvement. She cooperated by providing a complete recorded statement, acknowledging her part in the events leading to Marlen's passing. She also agreed to testify if required, and in return was sentenced to 30 years in prison. In April 2024, nearly 5 years after the tragedy, Clarissa, then 51, also pled guilty in exchange for a negotiated sentence. On April 16, 2024, Judge Peggy Chiampas handed down a 50-year prison term, recognizing her as the primary individual responsible. Clarissa remained silent during sentencing, only confirming her understanding of parole eligibility. Given the length of the sentence, she would be elderly, well into her 90s, before becoming eligible for parole. Desiree, meanwhile, is expected to be middle-aged upon release. Throughout these proceedings, Marlen's family held a vigil in May 2019, honoring her memory as a beloved mother, daughter, and friend. In the days following the tragedy, a strong wave of support emerged for Marlen's husband and young son. Friends organized a genuine fundraiser to help cover funeral costs and medical expenses, showing the community's care during a difficult time. The League of United Latin American Citizens helped bring Marlen's family from Mexico to Chicago for her memorial. Community members held press conferences demanding answers and justice. At a gathering, Marlen's mother, Raquel, tearfully questioned why the police took so long to act and whether prejudice played a role. The police defended their work, but promised to improve missing person investigations. Inspired by the case, Illinois lawmakers proposed Marlen's Law to ensure hospitals verify the identity of women bringing in newborns, especially after home births. This was meant to prevent future tragedies. On the first anniversary of her son's passing, Marlen's family gave back by distributing food and diapers to local families, saying, "If only kindness had been shown, maybe this wouldn't have happened." A local artist created a beautiful mural in Pilsen, showing Marlen and her son embraced in a peaceful, glowing scene, a symbol of hope amid heartbreak. The funeral took place on Saturday, May 25th. Marlen's white casket was surrounded by white roses and baby's breath, symbols of innocence and a life cut short. The bilingual ceremony honored her Mexican-American heritage with prayers and speeches in Spanish and English. Pastor Carlos Tamaye, who had married Marlen and Ivani, led the service, speaking of her faith and hope for reunion. The family remembered her as a loving wife, devoted mother, and joyful soul, qualities that would keep her memory alive. If Marlen's story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to help raise awareness about missing and vulnerable mothers. Your support can make a difference. Let's keep her memory alive and work together to protect others.